Alright, James here. Now, over the years of filming out here in the lab, you may have noticed that it's undergone quite a few changes and a few improvements over that time. The most recent of which is this nice new workbench, which is actually just a piece of kitchen worktop, but it allows me a lot more space and it's a lot more sturdy than what it was before. And I've also got these drawers here with all my tools that are in here nicely organised. That is one thing that I cannot stress enough. If you're going to do repairs and stuff, you need to keep your stuff organised, because if you don't, you're going to have a very bad day. And also organising all of my components. I've got a lot of these little kind of plastic component drawers and I've got everything sorted, labelled up. It's been really a 2-year affair. I've been, trying to sort these out, because I did a video a long while back which I showed you all of my components kind of laid out on the desk, and it kind of looked like, electrical suppliers warehouse avalanched out onto the desk. It was just mental, and it's literally taken me that long. And in that time I've had to buy more storage units. I've got a couple more of these little ESD safe drawers under here as well, which, oh man, I'm getting attacked by bits of hot glue, stringy. How annoying is that? So yeah, basically I've got a few more of those, and it's been a long time. I mean, for me, spare time is a bit of a rare commodity. A lot of people have a lot of it. I don't. I work too much, and as a result, when I'm out here, time is precious. I have to either spend it doing something constructive out here or doing a YouTube video. And today I'm doing something constructive and doing a YouTube video, which is great. Anyway, so one thing that's always been a bit of a problem out here is the Wi-Fi, or the lack of thereby. Wi-Fi has never been good out here, and in fact my phone is actually saying right now that it's on mobile data, because it doesn't even detect a wireless network, although it is a shitty iPhone, so that's probably why. But even my laptop doesn't really want to know. 2 megabits per second, absolute max. And my tablet just, doesn't even want to know whatsoever. So the reason being is because at the moment the Wi-Fi router, which supplies the Wi-Fi, is about 30 meters in that direction, and my house is slightly old, and the old construction was the most solid, and it was like double skin brickwork with concrete rendered walls. And Wi-Fi signals don't like to pass through things like that, especially not when you've got a 4-foot chimney breast in the way of your Wi-Fi router. And here, it's certainly not going to travel more than a few meters before it starts to really attenuate the signal. So as a result, out here, I've got literally no Wi-Fi. Now, when I first built this lab, I did install a wired network. So I ran a Cat6 cable all the way from the server rack in the loft, and I ran it all the way through the house and down to here, and I've got a small little gigabit network switch out here, and that feeds a small wired network, which I've got lots of keystone jacks on the walls here. I've got 2 here, I've got 2 under there, 2 more over there, and I've actually got 2 behind here, which oddly enough they actually don't work. And rather than fixing it, because, well, I spend all day fixing everyone else's network, I can't be asked to fix mine by the time I get home. So the easiest solution was just to put a drawer thing over it so I don't have to look at it. That's the best option. Anyway, so that's always been great, because the thing is, I do a lot of computer repairs and stuff out here, and I need that wired network to kind of connect up to the network if I need to access files, access the internet, etc, etc. So that's fine. The Wi-Fi thing has never been a problem up until now. Recently I had a few things to repair that had Wi-Fi, and it would have been very handy if I could have a Wi-Fi network out here. In the end I had to use the personal hotspot on my phone to do it, and it was real awkward. So I think now is the best time to do something about the Wi-Fi issue. And to sort that problem, I've got a couple of these cheapy little TP-LIN wireless access points. These ones are actually pretty good. They've got PoE, which is very, very handy. If you don't know what that is, that's power over Ethernet. I'll explain that a little bit further on. And these ones are N-band. They go up to 300 megabits per second. Yeah, right, I've never actually had 300 megabits out of these, but they're pretty good bang for your buck, and these are the ones I actually install for my clients. Now, usually I prefer to install either the Draytech or the Cisco wireless access points. However, some of my clients are either it's for a home network or a small office or something like that, and they don't really want to pay out for the more expensive Cisco and Drytech ones. So these ones are the next best thing, and bang for buck, they're pretty good, fairly reliable. I've never really had any serious problems with them, and security wise, my software guy, which I use regularly, tells me that these ones, out of all of the cheaper ones, he's found these the most difficult to actually hack into. So that puts a little bit of peace of mind. Now these are two that are left over that I had in stock. I don't actually install these ones anymore. These are actually an older model, and there's a newer version out, and those are the ones I install. So as a result, these ones ended up sitting around in the racking and never actually got used. And the other one I'm going to install in the house, because at the moment the Wi-Fi is coming from the Wi-Fi router that the ISP actually provided me with, and that is Sky Broadband. And when I actually signed up to their fibre optic broadband, they sent me a new home hub, which I thought was going to have fantastic wireless, and unfortunately the wireless is not great. It's just not powerful enough, and these ones are fairly powerful units, and therefore they should penetrate all of the brickwork and the concrete in my house fairly well. Now the thing is, in the UK you're only allowed to go up to 100 milliwatts on Wi-Fi. These ones actually, because they're destined for worldwide markets, you can actually take these up to 240 milliwatts. Naughty. You shouldn't. Obviously, when you set this to the UK region, it will automatically put it to 100 milliwatts. But, you know, if you get a bit hacky, you might be able to increase that. Personally, I think the 100 milliwatts is going to be perfectly fine for me though. So this is the one that I'm going to install in the house, and this is the one we're going to install out here. Now, I'm actually going to utilize the PoE on this because I actually want to put this up at a higher level just above the door frame. Not because I believe we're going to get any better signal, because out here it's really not going to make much difference in this space, whether it's up there or down there. I mean, Wi-Fi signals travel in almost every direction. And I say almost every direction because no Wi-Fi antenna is truly isotropic, and you will get a slightly different radial propagation depending on the situation the antenna is in, but most of the time you will get a slight attenuation directly above and below the antenna just because of the non-isotropic pattern. If you actually understood any of that, then you're obviously technically minded or an engineer. If you didn't, I apologise. I will try and explain the best as I go along. Anyway, so it's not due to signal, it's simply just because I want it up there, out the way, where it's not going to get walked into or knocked off the wall or whatever. I just want it up out the way so it's not really seen. So anyway, let's get and check out the network that we're going to plug this into, and I'll show you where we're going to connect it, I'll show you where we're going to put it, and then we'll actually get this thing fitted in and programmed up. So let's go. Okay, so this is where kind of all the business end of the network is happening, down in this corner. I've got a few bits down here. Now, first of all, that Cat6 cable that I mentioned earlier that comes all the way from the server rack actually terminates here at this keystone jack. And then from there, I've got an Ethernet cable which goes into this little gigabit switch. This is just a basic Netgear off-the-shelf gigabit 8-port switch. Now I've actually only got 4 lines connected here at the moment. The others are actually not connected, but I will connect them if I need to, but for the time being they're not. So I've got 4 spare ports on here. Now the actual access point is going to connect into here, then I'll run an Ethernet cable up to above the door where I'm actually going to install the access point. Now I've got a spare socket outlet down here, because even though this access point is PoE, I don't actually have a PoE switch, so I am going to have to use the power over Ethernet injector that they include in the package, and that does need to be connected to the mains. So I've got a spare socket here, that's absolutely fine. So as well as the switch, I've also got a small little audio amplifier because I've got some speakers out here for music. I've got this little adapter here, which is a AirPlay adapter, which enables me to use either DLNA to connect to it or AirPlay, and I can then play things from my phone or my laptop and stuff through the network and actually play it through the sound system. This is just a cheapy sound card. I think I actually did a review on this as well back in the day when I first got it. I've had it for years, and that just basically connects to the computer so I can have sound through the computer as well. So that's basically what I've got going on down here. So the access point is going to go up there, and I'll show you where that is. Okay, so this is where we're going to mount it, just above the door frame here. Now you may notice there's fresh plaster on the wall here. I had a little bit of an issue and I had to break a hole in the wall, and as you can see, a vain attempt to try and cover it with a clock there. That's not actually, it's just the best place to put the clock, so it just so happened to be there. So yeah, anyway, I will get around to painting that at some point, but as of yet I haven't. So it's going to go here, and I'm going to run the Ethernet cable down along the frame and down to the rest of the network. Now, to fix these access points on, you just need to put 2 screws in the surface. There's actually 2 little keyhole eyelets on the back. So you just have 2 screws in there, and they just literally drop and clip onto the head of the screws. Now, this is actually plasterboard, so I can just put 2 plasterboard fixings in there, or maybe I'll just put 2 rule plugs. It really doesn't matter. These things are not heavy in the slightest, so 2 rule plugs even would do. So anyway, this is where we're going to fix it. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay, so now it's time to actually unbox this thing, and I'll show you what's actually in the box, and we'll get it out and start actually putting it all together, because there's a little bit of preparation we've got to do before we actually fix this on the wall. And these are generally very loosely packed in here, so we'll undo that. And in the box we've got, this is just all the instructions and the disc and all the booklets. Don't need that. And we've got the unit itself. We've got the 3 antennas which go on there. We've got the little AC adapter. I've got an Ethernet cable, also don't need that. And we've got the little power inserter, which we do need. So that's it, that's the box. We can get that out the way. So basically, first things first, it's not rocket science. It's just basically screw the antennas on. They're all 2.4G antennas, so it really doesn't matter which way around you put them on there. And if you're wondering why these weren't wrapped in any polythene, or they haven't got any protective film over them, it's because I've actually already had these out the box to start with. If I'm going to store these for a long time before I install them, I usually like to get them out first, plug them in, make sure they work, and then obviously from there I go ahead and put them into storage ready to install. So that's the unit ready to go. We need the power inserter, obviously the AC connects into there, or sorry, the DC, the AC adapter connects into there, and then we need a small Ethernet cable to go from the LAN to the LAN, and a longer one to go from PoE to the actual access point itself. So basically that's it. Oh, and we're going to need some Ethernet cable. Now I've got a cable here which I made up for something which I don't really need anymore, so there should be enough on there. I'll just chop that apart and we'll make up a cable to suit, and that's why I binned the Ethernet cable. I never use the ones that come with them because they're never normally the right size. A lot of the times these are installed like that up on a wall right next to a keystone jack. I don't need a 1.8 meter Ethernet cable. I'll make up a short little lead to go round there into the plug. I just prefer to make them myself. Then I can confirm the quality of both the cable, the connector and the connection itself, and I don't have to rely on whatever cheap garbage they've supplied with it. So anyway, basically that's it. Let's get this actually put onto the wall, and then we'll start getting the power inserter mounted and start getting everything connected up. Okay, so unfortunately, no matter where I actually put this, the antennas are actually going to hit on the ceiling unless I put them right in the middle. But that's obviously where the clock is. So this is more important. So I'm sorry, the 1990s clock has got to go. And that's going to go right in the middle there. Now, to be honest, I don't really need the clock. I've got a watch, but I will put the clock over the other side. It doesn't really matter. That can go right there, and that's absolutely fine. So that's where I'm going to mount it. Okay, so first thing we need to do is actually take this screw out that was holding the clock on the wall and eat some crisps at the same time. Well, multitasking, of course. Alright, that's that. Perfect. So now I'm gonna finish my mouthful and not talk, because that's really rude. So this is actually where it's going to go in the center here, so I just need to mark up where my 2 holes are going. Now thankfully, in my favour, the plaster has actually cracked a little bit here, and that's my fault because I didn't actually put any scrim tape, and I should have done, because that's where the join is in the plasterboard. But the join is actually directly in the center of this door frame, so what I can do is just line up the middle antenna with that crack in the plaster, and that'll do me a big favour. So that's nice. So I'll put that there, and then what I'll do is just measure this up and the holes on the back for the screws are actually in the center of this, so that's fine. I can just measure up where I want this to be, add the measurement onto here, and then that'll be right in the correct place. So first of all, I'll get a center mark on here, and then we'll measure out from there the distance that we need. Okay, so the center of this access point is actually 60 millimeters. Now I want this to be about sort of, you know, 5 or 10 mil off the door frame here. So we'll say 10 millimeters. So our overall here has got to be 70 millimeters. Now, of course, when we put the eyelets on there and then let it drop down, it's going to drop down about 5 millimeters. So what I want to do is actually add only I want to add an extra 5 mil. So I want the overall here to be 75 from the center of here to the top of this frame. So I'll transfer that measurement and draw a line across. Okay, so I'll draw a mark here at 75 millimeters. So we have our mark, and I've got a little spirit level here. So I'm just going to do a level line across here, like so. And that's our horizontal line. And now what we want to do is actually determine a center line. Now I'm going to determine that the center line is right there where that crack is. So I'm just going to get the spirit level bubble lined up there, and I'll draw down a center line. So now we've got a cross in the middle. So now what we want to do is we want to take our measurement between the two holes here, which remember was 135 millimeters, and we want to divide that by 2. So we've actually got 67.5 millimeters. So what we need to do now is measure 67.5 millimeters each direction from that center line. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start from the 100 millimeter mark. So I'm going to put the 100 mil on that line, like so. This would probably be a little bit easier of a ruler, but this will do. And what I'm going to do is go to 67.5, which is there. So that's one. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll measure 67.5 from the middle of the line to the other side, and then between those two marks will be where we drill our holes. Now another way you can do this, which is a little bit easier, it's a little bit of a cheat, but if you do have a pair of these digital calipers or even a pair of analog calipers, it doesn't matter, you can actually measure the distance between the two holes, and once you've got this line in, you can actually get these calipers, line it up with that mark, and then just literally draw a line where the other prong of the calipers is. There you go, just like that. So now we know that one screw has got to go there and the other one's got to go there. So it's a little bit of a cheaty way of doing it, but it does work. If you have got a pair of these, they're your best friend in this situation. Okay, so now I've actually got to drill the holes. I'm actually just going to use rule plugs, as I said earlier. These things are so light, it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to drill a 5.5 mil hole and then put a red plug in there. Now I do have to be careful drilling here because there are actually cables in the wall above this door frame for the light on the other side. So yeah, if you hear a loud bang and we're plunged into darkness, you'll know what happened. And of course I won't edit out because obviously that'll be absolutely hilarious. So it'll be a laugh for you, won't it? So I'll leave it in if it happens, but I'm just going to go very gently. Yeah, you thought it was going to happen then, didn't you? The thing is, I know roughly where the cables are, and I don't think they're actually that low. I think they're up at this level. Anyway, so that's our holes, and I've got a couple of rule plugs here. These are going to be a tight fit because that was a 5.5 mil drill, and these are actually designed for a 6 mil. But because it's only plasterboard and it's quite crumbly, I prefer to drill a slightly undersized hole. There we go. So that's the plugs in. So I'm going to get a couple of 40 mil by 4 screws. The key is, if you do actually use rule plugs in plasterboard, don't push when you screw them in. Don't push inwards because you'll just push the plug into the plasterboard. So be very gentle until the screw's actually bitten in and it's expanded out. Otherwise you'll just push the plug behind the plasterboard and there'll be a lot of swearing and the air will be blue. Trust me, experience, I know. Okay, so that's in. So now this should just slide straight on and no problem. Yeah, you thought that was actually going to hit the floor then, didn't you? No, obviously you have got to line these up a little bit. Brilliant. Okay, yeah, that was a bit of a fiddle, but we're on now, and that definitely is not going to fall off, so that's fine by me. Brilliant, so that's now mounted on. So now what we've got to do is just run an Ethernet cable from here down to where we're going to mount the power inserter. So we'll go and mount that on the wall next. Okay, so the power injector I'm just going to mount down here just so that it's easy to run the wires to, and I'm going to use some tiny little screws to screw this on, because again we've got electrical behind this wall. This is actually in a prescribed zone, so I don't want to use a screw that's any wider than the plasterboard, because I definitely will hit something here. So I'm just going to screw that on the wall now, and I'll keep the camera rolling just in case it does happen. That will be hilarious for you, so I'll be fair and leave it uploaded. And as you notice, I'm using an insulated screwdriver as well, just in case. Right, brilliant, that's it, that's on the wall. So what I'm now going to do is just run the AC adapter cord to this thing, and I may have to actually bunch some of the cable up because there's obviously too much cable here. So I'll plug the power in there, I can run that along there to the socket outlet, and yeah, I'll probably just bunch that wire up underneath the plug. So I've got some zip ties. I'm going to need to make up some Cat 5 cables anyway, so I've got my technician's bag here. So first of all, I'm going to get some zip ties on the go. Have I got some smaller zip ties? Yep, of course I have. Loads of zip ties. Oh, we need a pair of cutters as well. Yep, and you can just look at my arse while I'm grabbing a pair of cutters. Oh, they'll do. Tiniest little cutters in the world. They're for telephone wire, but they'll do the job. Okay, so I'll just cut these out. I've actually put some of these little zip tie mounts on the wall here, so we can just screw them in. So I've got some zip ties, so I'm just going to do that. And then I'll put a tie through there, tighten that up, and I run this all the way along. I really hope that music in the background isn't audible, because this video will get taken down if it is. Unfortunately, I can't help it. There's a bunch of wannabe plastic gangsters in a car park over there, and they're blasting music out of their car. Shame. Anyway, that'll do for that. So I can power, no actually, do you know what, I'll leave it off for now. So now what I need to do is I need a small Ethernet cable to go from this power injector to the switch, so that'll be literally a very small one, and then I'll have another one that will go up to the actual switch itself. So I'll make that tiny one up first. I've actually got some Ethernet cable here. Unfortunately, all the tabs are broken off here, so I'll have to start again here. But this is the joy of making up your own cables, you see, because I can just make it exactly as long as I need, and then you don't end up with lots of cable that you've got to try and bundle up and hide. Right, Cat 5 connectors. I've got literally thousands. There we are, there's a bag of them there. Crimpers, wire strippers, that's it. I'm not going to bother putting little protective rubber boots on these. I haven't bothered with these. These are not really going to get touched once they're installed, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so I'm just going to make up a small Ethernet cable now. I'm actually going to do a separate video and show you how to make these Cat 5 connections up, because I've been asked several times now to do a video on it, so I think it's about time I did. So I won't do it in this video, I'll actually do a proper separate video on that. But anyway, so we're going to make these cables up. Obviously you need to get the cables in the right order, otherwise it won't work. I won't be testing this either, because, you know, it's for me. If I was on a job, then absolutely 100%, you know, I test everything if it's for a client. But because it's for me, it doesn't matter, does it? If it doesn't work, I'll just edit it out. Right, so plug that into there, and literally I just need to go down to there. So what I'll do is I'll get my pliers, cutters, and I'll just make a little sort of dent in the jacket there, so I know I'll cut some of that off. There's no such thing as waste with Cat 5 cable, because it's so cheap. You literally cannot waste it. Okay, so, and this is just regular Cat 5e. I'm not using anything special for this, because well, this is only just a wireless access point and it doesn't matter about speed. We're not going to be expecting gigabit speeds through this. To be honest with you, I'm not expecting to get the full 300 mega thingy majigs per second, megabits per second, that's the one. We got there eventually. I don't know, I never have out of these things. Maybe you have, I don't know. If you have, let me know how the hell you have, because the most throughput I've ever got out of these things is 140 megabits per second, and that was really pushing it. That was with the radio as powerful as it will go with aftermarket firmware, and I still couldn't get the 300 megabits. So maybe it's a mystical 300 megabits. Maybe it doesn't actually exist. It's just put on there to make you buy them. Okay, so that's now in, that's fine. So now what I need to do is just run a cable from the PoE side up to the actual wireless access point. I really hope there's enough cable on here because I don't want to have to go in the workshop and grab another box because of that. So yeah, that should be fine. Okay, brilliant. Unfortunately that tab's broken off as well, so I'm going to snippy snip that end and I'll put a new one on there. So what I'll do first of all is I will put a connector on the end here. I'd rather the slack be at the top end so that I can take the access point off if I need to, and I'll do it tight this end. So what I'll do is I'll put a connector on this end first and then we'll run the wire up. Right. Oh, sorry about that. I might edit that out. I don't do that when I'm on site working around clients, don't worry. I just do it on YouTube where literally hundreds of thousands of people are going to watch it. Listen, it's a natural bodily function. It needs to happen, so why moan about it? Just get on with it. Right, brilliant, that's done. So I'm actually going to now plug that into there, and this is the reason why I haven't plugged that in yet, because I'm now going to snip and I don't want to short anything out. So I'm just going to kind of run that up the frame there. I have actually got some little clips in there already, but I'm actually going to probably clip that in. So I'm going to go and get some small cable clips now and I'll get that fastened on, and then we can put a connector on the other end, and that's all the hardware side of it, the actual fit inside done. So we can move on and start doing the programming, which in my opinion is the boring bit, but anyway. Do you know what, I changed my mind actually. I'm just going to staple it on. I've got my cable stapler here, so I'm just going to go along and tack it all the way up. Okay, so I've got the cable all tacked on just up to this point here, so I've just got to go along and fix it here, and then I can put a connector on the end of this wire and actually just plug it into the access point up there. So what I'm going to do next is actually put that connector on. So I'm going to do that in super speed. Right, sorted. Okay, so I'm just going to plug that in there now. I believe it's that way around. No, it's going to be the other way around, isn't it? There you go, that's plugged in there, and I'll just tuck that into there, and that's fine. I'm perfectly happy with that. Brilliant. So that's all connected up. So now we can go on and start programming it. Right then, so that's all connected up, as you can see. So hopefully now, the moment of truth, I should flick that switch and I should see some green lights lighting up on that thing. So here goes. Ah yes, look at that. So perfect, that's all working. So now we can go over to the laptop and we can start actually programming this thing and setting it up. Okay, now I'm actually going to do this on my crusty old work laptop, and setting this thing up, they actually do supply a little disc which has got a little easy setup utility on there. Believe me, you don't need it, trust me, chuck it away. This is an absolute doddle. I'm going to show you how to do this the easy way. Now, when it comes to setting this up, it's actually a lot easier if you connect directly to the access point with an Ethernet cable. So don't connect it directly to your LAN. I've actually got an Ethernet cable. Don't show this message again. And I'm actually gonna just plug it directly into there, and that's what you should be doing. It's easy. You can connect it straight to your network, but it is easier doing it this way. So I'll just plug that in. Oh, that's a really nice positive click on that, isn't it? These connectors I use are really good quality. I don't cheap out and buy the cheapy Chinese ones. Right, anyway, so to set this up, I'm going to be using Shitternet Explorer because I've already got it open. And it says, obviously I'm not connected to the internet. That's because that thing is obviously not connected to the internet. So to access this, we need to go to the URL, delete that, and in the address bar we need to type in the default IP address of the wireless access point. Now for TP-LIN products, that is usually 192.168.1.254, which funny enough is actually the exact same one for a BT hub as well. So we'll just type that into the address bar, 192.168.1.254, hit enter, and we should be presented with a little box where we have to put in our credentials. So it wants a username and a password. Now by default on the TP-LIN products, this is basically admin for the username, and the password is also just admin. Okay, it should be, if I remember rightly. Yes, it is. Okay, so we're into the configuration console here. So as you can see here, we've got, this is just a status. It just shows us basically what's going on. There's our default IP address, which we're going to change. Subnet mask, it tells us the firmware version, which is quite handy, and this is actually the most up-to-date firmware that you can get for this wireless access point, so that's absolutely fine. So first thing we want to do is we want to change the IP address of the unit, because in order to use this on your home network, you need to actually set it to an IP range that's the same as the DHCP server on your home broadband. Now personally, I've got a little bit of an IP structure, and all of the wireless access points for my network are anything from 220 onwards. Now the one that I have in the house, or that's going to be in the house, is going to be 220. This one is going to be 221. So what we're going to do is we're going to set a static IP. We don't want to use dynamic because it will change if we do that. So we want this to be 192.168.0.221. So that's the actual IP address we're going to use for this unit, and I will also set an IP reservation for that on the DHCP server as well. So I'll do that, and the default gateway I'll just put in for me is 192.168.0.1. Okay, brilliant. So we'll save that. It says it will be rebooting the thing, so that's fine. We'll just click OK on that, and it's basically going to now restart the actual unit now. And once we've done this, we can actually now connect to connect the access point to the network, and everything else we can do through the network at this point. So I'll just wait for this to finish restarting, and then I'll get it connected to the network. Okay, so now I've got the wireless access point connected back to the network, and I've got the laptop now connected also to the network. So now what I can do is type in the new IP address that we just gave it, 192.168.0.221, hit enter, and again we're prompted to put in the password and the username, which I will actually change, but for now it's the default admin, and the password is admin. Okay, so now we're into the settings, and now what we need to do, network is all set up, so we set up our gateway, we've set up our static IP address, so now we can move on to the wireless. So we now need to give this an SSID, so I'm going to call this one lab Wi-Fi. There we go, I'll just call it that. It's set to United States, so we need to set that back to United Kingdom. And it says that, you know, incorrect country may cause interference with other devices. That's just because obviously the wireless laws are different in every country, and obviously the maximum amount allowable for the broadcast power is different as well. So in the UK, obviously we're bound to 100 milliwatts. In the US they go up to 300 milliwatts. Lucky them. Anyway, so that's fine. We'll set the channel to auto. The automatic channels on these wireless access points do a pretty good job, so we'll let it do its thing. Channel width we'll leave to 20/40, and the max TX rate is 300 megabits per second. Again, don't think I'm ever going to see that, but yeah, you never know. Anyway, so that's fine. Enable wireless radio, yes, and enable SSID broadcast I will for now. Once I've got all my devices connected, I will then disallow that, and I don't like to broadcast my SSID. So anyway, that's done. So we'll just click save. Oh, and of course, you know, the operation mode, you can have a few different ones. You can have multi-SSID, you can have client repeater, or you can have it as bridge with AP, which will basically just act as a repeater, and it will bridge the connection between 2 points, so you can have a wireless signal where you can't get a wire, for instance. But as I say, we just want a plain access point. So with all that done, we'll click save. Okay, and it says that if you want to save the changes, you'll have to reboot, which we'll do in a moment. So next thing we want to do is set up the security. Now in here we want to use WPA2 pre-shared key, and we'll leave these to automatic, and we'll set a password for this network, or a key. So I'm going to do one here of, obviously I'm not going to tell you, oh no, the caps lock isn't on. Yeah. Yeah, there we go, that'll do. I probably will do a different one, but for demonstration purposes that will do. Okay, so that's fine. So that's the security setup. There's some advanced options and stuff. I will go into that and do all of that, but for now all I'm literally interested in doing is just getting this thing basically set up. Okay, so we've got the security set there. We can go into the DHCP now, and we want to disable DHCP. We don't want that enabled. I have my own DHCP server in the server rack, and that is what is managing my domain and my DHCP. I don't want this thing to have its own DHCP because it will conflict with that one. So I want that to actually pick all of the IP addresses. So that's absolutely fine. So we're actually, just as long as that's disabled, that's absolutely fine. The default gateway here is exactly what it was on the other one, so that's absolutely fine. Sorry, this is the static IP of the access point, but that's, as I say, that's fine. So as long as that's disabled, we should be all good to go. So we can click save. It says it will take effect after it's rebooted. We've also got a few other bits in here. We've got some system tools where you can do all the sort of firmware upgrades and all that kind of stuff. And you know, you've also got a thing in here where you've got diagnostics, so you can ping things and you can check IP addresses. You've also got where is it, system log as well, which you can go into and you can check certain things are happening or not happening, as the case may be. So yeah, so you've got a pretty good some functions in here that are quite useful, but the one we want is password, because we're going to have to change that password. So the old password was obviously admin, and admin. The new username I'm going to keep as admin actually, but the password I'm going to put as that, which I'm not going to obviously read out as I type. Okay, so we'll click save, and now that's the password that we need. So we've got admin, and then we got the password. Nope, it didn't like that. Oh, what's going on here then? Oh, okay, that was weird. I must have just fat fingered the password. Never mind. Okay, so we're back in again. That's fine. We can check all of our wireless settings here, and that's all good. It's picked channel 4. Okay, it's going to do it automatically anyway. It'll basically just look for other Wi-Fi networks, and if it detects that other Wi-Fi networks are on the same channel, it will just basically find a channel that they're not on. It's basically how it works. Anyway, okay, so now all we need to do is just reboot the access point. So I'll hit on reboot, and that should now save all of the settings that we've just done, and including the password change. And then that's it, basically, we're all good to go. See, that was well easy to set up. There's no need to use any of those crappy software utilities that you just install on your machine and you end up just with crap on your computer that you don't need. This is the easiest way to do it. This is how I've always done it. And unless you install aftermarket firmware, which I quite commonly do with these units because it seems to work very well, they're actually genuinely quite powerful units. You know, you don't really need to stress about it. This is the easiest way to do. So that's now rebooted. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my tablet and we'll search for the Wi-Fi network, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we should be all good. Okay, so we've now got a fully functioning Wi-Fi network. So now I'm going to try and connect to it with this. and there we go. So if I go to there, go to settings, I just realized settings was right there. Wi-Fi, there it is, lab Wi-Fi, it's come up there. So I'll just tap on that, put in the key, the password, which I'm going to block out. Okay, so I've just put in the password and it says connected, so that's brilliant. So now if I go to like YouTube, I should have an internet connection and it should be working. As you can see, I've got obviously full signal because I'm about 3 meters away from the actual access point. Brilliant, so YouTube is now loaded up. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to look at one of my videos so I don't get done for copyright. Yeah, that one will do. So we'll just load that. So there we go, that's my video. Sorted. So we now have a fully functioning Wi-Fi network. It's connected to my network. It's got connection to the internet. We are done. Excellent, all set up. So now I'm happy. And now I've got a mess to clear up. Oh joy. Okay, so now I have a fully functioning Wi-Fi network in the lab. My phone is now connected to it and it says I have Wi-Fi, so it's not going to eat into my data plan every time I come out here and use my phone. Obviously my tablet is already connected and I'll connect any other wireless devices as and when I bring them out into the lab. Now also as well, if I'm fixing anything that does require to be connected to a wireless network, I've got the network here now, I can connect to it if I need to. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that when I actually come to install this one, the other one in the house, I will be flashing the firmware off of these and putting aftermarket firmware on them. And in the meantime, I'm actually going to unplug this one from the wall when I'm not out here using it. Simply because I don't want this to unnecessarily broadcast a powerful Wi-Fi signal through these thin walls to basically my neighbours or anyone else on the street that can actually see that Wi-Fi network. I know I'm not broadcasting the SSID, but that doesn't stop people from getting in. So it's unnecessary. When I'm not out here, I'm going to switch it off until I get that aftermarket firmware on there, because the aftermarket firmware allows better wireless security, like enterprise level wireless security, better management, it's more adaptable. Just overall you can do far more with them with the aftermarket firmware rather than the stuff that comes with it. So as and when I do that, I will actually do another video and show you basically how you do that and how it's done. Even if you want to just buy one of these things just to actually do that anyway, these things are like so cheap. I mean, brand new, they're like 50 quid. And if you want, you can go on eBay and get this particular version, which works just as well with the aftermarket firmware, and you can pick these up for like 20 quid on eBay. So they are incredibly cheap, but for what you're actually paying, it's a very good bang for the buck. You get a good deal for what you're actually paying. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I actually am now going to be loving the fact that I can get Wi-Fi out here. And I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you learned something, and if you enjoy my videos, feel free to hit the subscribe button and you'll be made aware of any new videos that I upload. Feel free to leave a comment down below as well. If you've got any questions, constructive criticism, bung it in the comments section below, and if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Nice one.